Hello, I'm Rory, and welcome to Vivaldi. Well, Vivaldi Social, because today we're going to talk about Mastodon, our Mastodon instance, and all the great things that we're doing there, and also give you a little explainer on what Mastodon is, what the Fediverse is, and so on. So if you like this, remember to like and subscribe at the end, because this is going to be a full tutorial. Are you ready? Okay, so what is Mastodon? Okay, so I'll first say what Mastodon is not. And Mastodon is not quite like Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or many of the other social networks you've come across, in that there is no one account and there is no one app. In a way, it's more similar, actually, to things like email or phone services. And what I mean by that is, when you first got an email address, you may have joined Gmail, and perhaps your friend joined Outlook. But you can still talk to each other, and that's basically a form of federation. It's exactly the same on the phone as well. You might have one provider, your friend has another, you still talk to each other. So Mastodon and the Fediverse, which I'll get into, is an overarching concept. It's like, it's a network of networks. So how do you choose a provider? Okay, that's a difficult question because people want different things, but you can either find an instance which is interesting to your things that you enjoy, like maybe cycling or music, or interest in like green policies or whatever hits it for you. Or you can choose a more generic provider, which is open to everyone. Obviously, we provide one of those with Vivaldi Social, so I'm going to use that as an example. But whether you use us or you use someone else, you'll still be able to work with the Vivaldi browser. So that's up to you. So, Vivaldi Social. If you go to social.vivaldi.net, you'll come to our landing page, and you'll see there's two options here. There's sign in and create an account. So if you already have a Vivaldi account for like Sync, or you use our forums or our blog or something like that, you can actually just sign in with that, your regular credentials, and it will just be created on the fly for you. If you're not with Vivaldi now, don't use any of our services, then click on create an account. So if we do that here, it's going to ask you a bunch of information. A username, your choice, how old you are, your password, which you intend to use, which you confirm twice to make sure, kind of standard stuff you see in all sign-up forms. A recovery email, and this is important because as part of the sign-up process, an email is going to come to you with some numbers or a link, and you're going to have to fill that in to verify your email address. We have this here just really to stop spammers and so on from making lots of accounts. So fill those two in, and then there'll be a simple question. In this case, 7 + 6. So hopefully you can do the maths and work that out. And then you will have a couple of tick boxes here. Now, the first one is to sign up to our newsletter, which I highly recommend because all of our new stuff we're going to promote there and let you know about. And that's optional. And the second one is the terms and conditions. Now, you can click on the links and read them if you like, but you will have to agree to this to register. And then click register. You're going to get that email. You're going to verify your email, and then you're ready to sign in. Since I already did that off camera, I'm going to skip this bit and we'll go straight away to signing in. So let's have a go here. So I set up a special account just for this. As you see, it's not me. And the password. Okay, let's try signing in. Okay, and so here's our landing page. And the first thing that you'll see is a bunch of suggestions of people you'd like to follow, because you just started here, you don't know anyone. There's a list of interesting accounts here, starting with Vivaldi and Jon, our founder, and a bunch of other stuff, including me. Obviously, we'll follow him. So pick a few of these accounts. I recommend the top 4 are pretty useful to getting to know other people and other things and tips and so on. So click through a few of these, and that's how you create your account. Right, so I'm just going to subscribe to a few more people here, including Fedi Tips and Fedi Follows, right? And if we click on Home, we will get a feed. There you go. Now you're starting to see the different people that you followed. And now the question next would be, like, how do you find people? And there are kind of 2 groups of people you probably want to find. People that you already know and like from some other social media, and maybe new interesting people that you've never heard of before. So for the people that you know, the best thing to do is, if it's a small group of people or one or two interesting people, is you exchange this. I've just clicked on my profile and you'll see this address here. It looks very much like an email address. So it's @notrorio@vivaldi.net, right? And if I give that to another person on the Fediverse, on Mastodon, they can use that to find me. And similarly, if they give you the same thing, they can use it to find you. Exactly like email. You exchange email addresses, you can find them. So for people that you know well, I would exchange your new Mastodon address, your new Fediverse address with them, and then you can start searching for people. Like for instance, if I search for my own account, my real account, in this search box at the top left-hand corner and search, I can find, here's a user, and it is the one I already followed him. You would click on this little plus to follow these people. That's another interesting account, so I'll follow that as well. So that is how you'd find like the first few people. Just exchange with the people you know. Now, another thing you can do is there is a bunch of tools that will connect to other social networks and pull lists of people that you may know. A good one is called Fedifinder, and we can probably link to that in the description. And that will connect to, say, Twitter and find other people who are on Mastodon and Twitter. And so that will create a list for you, and you can click on all the people in that list and you can find them as well. So that's how you would find the people that you know. Now, the people that you don't know, other interesting accounts, what I would generally do is, once you're following a few people, I would look at the people that they follow. So for example, if we click on Vivaldi and say, okay, who does Vivaldi follow? Click on following for them. And now here's a list of different people that they follow. So basically, you can now go through this list. Let's click on one of them, Patricia here, and read a little bit about her. And if she sounds interesting to you, you click follow, and so on. And you can go backwards and go through the list and find others and so on. At the beginning, what I would say is be quite liberal with following. It doesn't really mean that much to follow someone. It's just, this is potentially an interesting person, and I'll find out if they are in a while. And it's very easy to unfollow them later. So I think it's better to just go for it. Just pick a bunch of accounts that look interesting and follow them. Another thing that you can do is to go through your feed, and you'll see some of the people that you like, maybe boosted, that's listed here. I'll explain that more in the future. Other accounts. So maybe those would be accounts you'd like to see as well. So Mastodon and the Fediverse and moderation, that is an interesting one. As I said before, the whole concept here is federated. And if we go back and think about email again. So on email, one of the problems that you have is spam. Spam from other email addresses, or people with your provider sending out spam. Now, if I'm on, say, Fastmail, and I send spam from Fastmail, then I will get banned by Fastmail. They'll realize I'm sending spam, and I may lose my account or so on. They're in effect moderating me. They're also moderating people that are coming in, that are sending messages to Fastmail users. Because when an email comes in, if it's a spam account, they will block it, or your filters will block it. And it's basically exactly the same thing here on Vivaldi Social. Accounts that you see will be external to Vivaldi Social or internal to Vivaldi Social. But they will be moderated, and they will be moderated by the rules of the instance or server that you're running on. So Vivaldi Social has its own rules. If you go to our About page, there's a list of exactly what our rules are. And you can use these to decide if it's the right service for you as well. So a few things: we don't allow sexual explicit, we don't allow racism, we don't allow violence, and so on. And if you do any of those things, yes, you will be moderated by us. If you do things that we allow, but another instance does not, you might get moderated by them. What that means is that the users on that instance won't see you anymore. So yes, there is moderation, and you can use it as a criteria to pick your instance as well. Find one that works for you, that moderates the things that you care about and is open on the things you don't care about, and so on. Yeah, so I think some terms now as well would be interesting, because the terminology on all the different social networks is slightly different. a lot of people who coming to Vivaldi Social and Mastodon and the Fediverse have probably come from Twitter of late because there's been a big upheaval there. And so if you're familiar with terms there, I can reuse those now to explain things to you. So a boost is like a retweet on Twitter. It means that I've seen a post, I think this post is really important or has a good message or it's funny or whatever. And by boosting it, I'm sending it to all the people who follow me. So that's a boost. And there is a little button which looks like a circular thing. Let's find one on the screen for you now in the home feed. Yeah, if you look at this one here, it looks like a circular thing. That means to boost it to my audience. I can boost this now. And then next to that, you have a star. On Twitter, this might be called a like. It's called a favorite here. And that just means that this is fun. And what it effectively does is it sends back to the person who made that post saying, this person liked this one. They favorited this. So the boost allows you to push to your audience. And the favorite is just really to tell the person who wrote the post that, you know, they did a good job. And the next one next to that would be to bookmark. That stores like a local bookmark of that and in side panel. So you can kind of come back to things that you really like before you want to reference in the future. Okay, so another question a lot of you probably have is what are the local and federated feeds? So if we look here on this side panel, you have home, notifications, explore, local, federated. And the two that perhaps stand out the most are local and federated, although I think I'll cover explore as well. So local are all the posts to the instance you're on. Now, on a very general instance like Vivaldi Social, those could be about absolutely anything. Any members who are on Vivaldi Social will be posting to that feed. So if we look at that now, there's just a bunch of semi-random, but perhaps interesting because there are other Vivaldi user posts. And you can go through them and perhaps find new and interesting content there. The federated feed is all the different networks that Vivaldi Social connects with. So it's even more messages. And again, you might find something interesting there, but that's almost like a fire hose of feeds. And then we also have Explore. And on Explore, we have things like posts that have got lots of likes or retweets, or boosts, I should say. And popular hashtags at the moment, and some news and so on. So they're basically news stories picked out from feeds. Hopefully that's hopeful and gets you kind of going with how to find new stuff. So I'll talk a little bit about creating a post, and maybe one of the first things you might want to do is add some media or an image or something interesting to your post. As you see on the left-hand side, you'll see a little area where you can write what's on your mind. So this is where you're making your post. And if we click on this little clip icon, we can find in our downloads a picture of me dressed as Santa. And as you see, as I clicked on it, it was added. Now, a couple things here. When you look at that image, you see my head is cut off. If we click on edit, we can change the view so that my face is in focus. So you can pick where on the image you want to display for the thumbnail. And also, it's really nice to just write a description. It mentions here this is for the visually impaired, and it can be used for that. It can be used for other things as well. Not just screen readers, but also some people browse with images off and so on. So I would really encourage you to write something here. So man in a Santa hat, perhaps, next to a unicycle. Okay, so we apply that. And now you see the thumbnail is updated and it's got the text behind. So we can say, here I am. And now you have a couple of other options here. I think I'll talk about them as well, actually. You have something here called CW. What does CW mean? This is a content warning. And the idea here is if you post something that you think maybe others might not like some people will like it, but others might not like. Maybe you always talk about one topic and you're talking about a different topic, like there's a political event at the moment, or Eurovision, and you think you'll annoy your followers, or maybe you're watching a cool TV series and it has spoilers. You can write some description here of what the post is about. So I could say, maybe Andor is a popular TV series at the moment. I could write Andor spoilers, right? And then I would fill that in, Andor spoilers. It's not really because there's a picture of me as Santa, but we'll go with it. And then I can write anything I like about it, and it won't immediately show in their view. So again, if you have anything sensitive, it's a good idea to add this content warning. Now, separately from that, you can also decide to make the image that you have sensitive or not sensitive. What this means is it'll blur it out. So again, this would be, maybe have a picture of a spider. A lot of people hate spiders. And if you're worried that that'll scare people, maybe you would want to check this box as well. I mean, here we have a unicyclist dressed as Santa, so that's pretty scary. So I'm going to go with that. So if I publish this now, you'll see it immediately appears in my feed. And because I chose that the image was sensitive, it's grayed out. Okay, so sensitive content is one thing, but there are some other options here as well. Well, let's look at them. This one is a poll. And again, if you've used other social media, you're probably familiar with this. You just write in your choices and you can go ahead and make a poll on anything you like. The next one is very important. There are actually 4 types of messages on Mastodon, which initially might seem confusing, but in the long run will make more sense. There's a description of them here, but whoever reads that. So I'm going to read them for you, and hopefully then you'll pay attention. So public is exactly what it says. It's visible to all. And it's also in some ways sort of promoted, like you will see it in those local and federated feeds that I saw before. Everyone can see this. Unlisted is almost the same, that your post is there, but it won't be promoted in quite the same ways. It will not appear in the local or federated feeds. But again, if somebody boosts it or they're looking at your profile or whatever, then they could still find it. So it's not totally gone. And you might do this if, say, you do a thread. The first post you want to make public because that's the main title piece. And the subsequent ones you kind of want to hide away because they're not as important. You can make them unlisted, but your choice and how is up to you. The next one is for followers only. And that is exactly as described. It's for people who follow you to see. Again, I should stress, it's not totally hidden because if you have an open account that anyone can follow, all someone needs to do to find this is just to follow you and they would find it. So it's kind of like semi-hidden. And then the last one is particularly interesting. Mention people only. And what does that mean? Okay, if you're been from Twitter or somewhere else, you've probably seen that when you talk to someone, you @ them, you write @ and their username. This means that only the people that you @ will be copied on this message, nobody else. But again, be careful. The internet, things can go differently than you expect. An example of that being is, say you said, you know what, I'm speaking to a friend of mine and I'm saying to them, you know what, I want to buy a present for this great person who works on our videos. Her name is Ari. So I say, hey Stein, @Stein, let's buy a present for Ari, but don't tell her about it. If I @ Ari, she will get a message. So only @ the people you want to see this message. If you @ anyone else, they will see it. Also, if you talk behind people's back, that's a bad thing, but you know, presents are okay. So one last thing I want to say about this is note these icons on the side. A globe for public, an unlocked lock for unlisted, a locked lock for followers, and @ for only people mentioned. And you will see these throughout Mastodon. And it will allow you to see at what level that was posted. Like, is it just for you or someone else? So perhaps the next thing to talk about is verification, because it's an interesting topic and it's one that's had a lot of discussion on other forms of social media. If we click on my username, I'm not verified for this account. If we actually look up my main account, let's have a look at that again, you will see that it is verified. It's verified multiple times, in fact, with ticks in green against all the different ways I'm verified. So what does this mean? Well, on some social media, at least historically, someone who's verified is someone who's notable in one field or another. That could be an entertainer, a politician, or whatever. And basically, the way that has traditionally worked is they apply to the social network and they prove to the social network they are who they are, and they get to have a tick or some form of verification. Now, on a kind of federated distributed social network like Mastodon and the Fediverse, that can't quite work. So what we have here is a situation where another website confirms you are who you are. If you look at the bottom link on my account, it's a link to Vivaldi.com team. Now, on that page, there is a reference to my account. And my account, my real account, has a reference to that page. If those two point to each other, then you get a green tick. And when the page is loaded, this is all checked for you. So in your profile, let's go into preferences, edit profile. There's a section down here where you could basically put labels and links to different sites. If you link to a site which has this code, which I'm selecting here, on that page, then that will allow for verification. So verification is basically taking this snippet of HTML and putting it on another site and then linking to that site from here in your profile. Seems a little complicated, but we'll have more tutorials and so on that later. That's the basics. Okay. We've gone through quite a lot there, and we're happy to make more such videos, but I think at the moment I'll just go to the end, give you a few tips, which hopefully you'll find useful, just some final thoughts. So, tip number 1, do not worry about your social score. And what does that mean? I think all of us have become a bit obsessed with how many followers do we have, how many likes do we have, how many people boosted us, and so on. And actually, most social media is designed to work that way. The interaction there is very important. They need you to do these things so that you're stuck on the page and that you see the advertising and so on. Don't focus on that. It can be unhealthy. I think we've all got carried away, and I know I have. So what I would advise to you is don't worry about how many people you follow or how many people follow you. Find some interesting people and talk to them. The likes, the boosts, they're all important, but the main thing is talk to them. Because it's great for me to get a like or a boost, but if someone comments on something that I've written, that's even better. And I also think it's more important to have, say, 10 people you follow and 10 people who follow you that you actually interact with, rather than have 1,000 followers who you don't really care about. So really focus on that, and I think you'll just have so much of a better time. The rest is unimportant. This kind of leads on to a general thing of being really nice. Try and be nice. One of the problems that we have with social media these days is it's so angry and aggressive and people get into fights. Remember that there are other humans there. These are real people just like you. So try not to offend them. Try not to be problematic. Have fun, joke with them, like their stuff, comment on their stuff, and keep it simple. And that also leads into another thing. I talked earlier about content warnings, blurring your media. If you feel that it will offend people, do those things. Similarly, if you put up pictures, remember there are people up there who can't look at pictures, who won't be able to see pictures. Writing one line of alt text is really helpful. So yeah, I would end with just be nice and people will be nice to you. It's a really great way to live both on social media and in the real world. And so now finally to wrap up, I really hope you like this video. Don't be afraid to just go out and try it and see how it works for you. We all need to try new things. And if you have any thoughts, comments, whatever, remember to write them below, or you can also contact me on Mastodon. That's fine. And just have a great time. Oh, and like and subscribe. Thank you very much. And bye-bye.